I'm staring into a pair of ruby red eyes, open wide with shock. I'm not sure who this is to start. I think it's... Yeah. I recall snapping at him, insulting him, but I don't remember what I said. Nor do I remember how he responded. All I know is that a wave of churning blackness appeared out of nowhere, washing me away. I'm powerless, helpless, hopeless. My young mind sucked into it like a whirlpool. Young. My young mind. Oh, for Christ's sake. You have got to be kidding me. Why? For the love of God, why am I being made to look back at this part of my life? The miserable, stupid, fucking romantic I once was. Why am I turning back into the boy I tried so hard to forget? Where did this absurd black smoke come from, and why can't I get out of it? If it's that white-haired man who's doing this to me, then he's not an angel or a prophet. He's the goddamn devil himself. But all my questions, my confusion, my frustration, everything that composes my present is superseded by that darkness, wiping away, wisping away into nothing. To be blunt, the world's a small place. There's an unimaginable amount of it out there, but you only ever get to see a minuscule fraction of that. And that goes doubly so for us. The poor barely get the chance to see any of it at all. And those who are born into affluence, well, they have no idea just how small our world really is. I never yearned for the world outside what I knew. I more coveted it. A splash of spite mixed in. I wanted to claw my way up the mountain, knock all the bastards down who had never seen what it was like at the bottom. If I made it high enough, I could do anything. I would have complete freedom. If that sounds like a childish fantasy to you, well, you'd be right. That's exactly what it was. There you are. You spend so much time in the graveyard that one of these days someone's going to think you're a gravekeeper, or maybe a grave robber. Yeah, forgive me if I get these mixed up. I can understand a gravekeeper, but I take offense at the suggestion I look like a grave robber. I'm praying for the souls who have no one to see them off. The girl, named Morgana, turned around to face me. Though I'd known her for some time, I'd rarely ever looked her in the eyes. Her face was almost always concealed beneath a dark hood, revealing only the tip of her nose and sometimes her lips. Honestly, I don't get it. Why do you care so much? These are souls that have no one else to pray for them. At best, they may get a bit of lip service from a priest once or twice. It's our responsibility to offer a helping hand to the sick and the poor, to pray for the abandoned souls. What I don't get is why you need to pray for the dead at all. They're just bags of bones. I hope you enjoy an eternity in hell, blasphemer. Hey! That was uncalled for. I'm just joking, obviously. You take black humor to a new level. Still figuring out young Jacopo's voice, I suppose. Morgana gave me a curt shrug, then turned away. She never faced anyone head-on for very long, and she had a perfectly good reason for it. It wasn't because she disliked me or anything. I don't think so, anyway. I don't think, anyway. About 3 years earlier, something had happened that had caused large patches of flesh to fall off her face. Supposedly, she had looked fine before then, but I only knew her as she was at that time. The rest of her body was covered in wounds as well, but applying ointment to them had reduced the scarring significantly. Her face, though, showed no signs of recovering. A close friend of mine, a prostitute, said she thought it might be a psychological thing, but regardless, I continued applying the ointment to Morgana's face.
Hey, come on. Don't turn away from me.
Oh, fuck.
Hey, come on. Don't turn away from me. I know you can hear me. I brought ointment, so let me put it on you. It's a waste of time.
You don't know that. Your arms look much better than before. It won't be long before your face starts healing too.
The ointment isn't free. You're wasting your money.
It's my money. I can use it however I please. So just shut up and let me do this.
You're a very obnoxious man, you know.
What was that? You want me to rub it in real hard, huh?
Fine.
With a forlorn graveyard as, Oh, okay. With a forlorn graveyard as their backdrop, a young man applied... With a forlorn graveyard as their backdrop, a young man applied salve to a girl's raw, exposed flesh. It was quite possibly the least romantic sight in the world. I would have, at the very least, preferred a somewhat more pleasant location. As the thought fluttered through my mind, I let out a defeated laugh, and I could soon feel her glaring at me. Morgana could be a bit standoffish, but honestly, I didn't mind. For her, this was actually quite sociable, in fact. When I first met her, she didn't act her age at all. But now, she was starting to show signs of the 12-year-old girl hidden inside. 3 years prior, when I met Morgana, she had been the victim of unspeakable abuse at the hands of the Lord. I didn't know why he had done those things to her, and I didn't ask either, because I knew doing so would only reopen old wounds. All I knew was that the Lord was so far gone as a human being as to brutally torture a 9-year-old girl. At the time, the only thing that ever seemed to come out of her mouth was the word of God. Everything she said or did was ostensibly for the benefit of others, but it felt to me more like she was acting out of some sort of sense of duty rather than genuine concern. Honorable, but ultimately hollow. I much preferred this Morgana, even if she could be a bit jaded.
What are you hoping to get out of repairing my face?
I'm not trying to get anything. I just want you to heal up. Fuck, I keep not doing the right voice. I'm not trying to get anything. I just want you to heal up. That's too high. Whatever.
And here I thought you were going to try and make me work at the brothel.
How many times do I have to tell you? I'm not going to make you be a prostitute.
What other reason could you have for wanting my face to get better?
Because I want to see it. Isn't that enough? Just so we're clear, that wasn't me hitting on you, okay?
The thought never occurred to me.
She fell quiet, sitting there motionless, as I rubbed ointment into her face. Her skin beneath my thumb was rough and unpleasant to the touch, and honestly, rather stomach-turning. It was hard to imagine her face would ever heal. What I'd said about wanting to see her face was true, but what I wanted more than anything was for her to be able to live a relatively normal life.
Whew. I hope you're prepared to be let down if I ever do heal. That possibility's just part of the fun. You have as much tact as a worm. No tact and bad taste. I'm a real winner. It's a wonder no one throttles you in your sleep.
Being a guy, of course, I would have been pleased if she turned out pretty when her face healed. But her life was guaranteed to be easier than... But her life was guaranteed to be easier than now, no matter what she looked like. That was what really mattered, ultimately. I could only imagine how hard it was to have your life turned completely upside down at the age of 9. A large portion of us in the slums had our share of misfortune, but hardly any of them stacked up to what Morgana had to bear. She had no parents. When I'd asked about her mother, she'd gotten cagey with me, so I assumed she'd been sold off. When I'd asked about her father, though, she just pointed up at the sky, which I took to mean he was dead. A young girl, no family, sent off all on her own to some strange land, somewhere along the line ending up in the Lord's cruel grasp. Misfortune felt like an understatement, if anything. That said, it wasn't just out of pity that I gave Morgana so much of my attention. The other reason, though, well, she'd probably go running if I told her. Hell, I wanted to hit myself over the head.
I'll still be your friend, even if you turn out to be the ugliest girl in the city. You should be grateful. How is it you haven't managed to chase off everyone in your life yet? I act like a decent guy around other people. Do my best to fit in. And why are you such a dolt around me? Just doing my best to fit in. So you're saying this is my fault? Everyone could use a thorn or two. Makes them more exciting. You especially. Okay, that should be everything. Does it sting anywhere? Not particularly, no. Alright. I'll also finish up here and get back to Maria soon. Unless you'd rather I drag you there. Why? Seriously? It's your damn birthday, that's why. And what do you think, dimwit? She wants to celebrate. Get back there soon, okay? I'm planning to drop by too. Okay? Okay.
She gave a sheepish nod, which was honestly kind of cute, but of course I couldn't say that. So I shrugged my shoulders, feigning exasperation, and then turned to leave. Once, I might have offered to accompany her back to the brothel, but Morgana never seemed keen on the idea of walking anywhere with me. Maybe she was afraid of grown men, after what had happened to her at the Lord's Manor. Oh right, he's not a child. No, that makes sense with the timeline, now that I think about it. I've been giving him the wrong voice this whole time. That's fine. Maybe she was afraid of grown men after what had happened to her at the Lord's Manor. Or maybe she just didn't want to be seen with someone who looked like her. Or maybe she just didn't want me to be, Or maybe she just didn't want me to be seen with someone who looked like her. So, hey, I thought you were leaving. One day I'll show you the world. I won't get my hopes up. Get your hopes up, damn it. Get your hopes up, damn it, I said with a soft chuckle. and then I took my leave. I had every intention of making good on that promise, and I had more than enough reason to believe I could. 3 years back, there was a slave revolt at the Lord's Manor. That's not quite accurate, though, because while I was partly responsible for inciting the riot, I wasn't actually a slave. The local lord was spoken of in whispers as the second coming of the great tyrant of old. The people were constantly grumbling about how he seemed to treat the land like his own personal playground, exploiting everything and everyone on it for his own amusement. When enough stress and resentment builds up in a contained space, all it takes is a little shove from the outside to burst. And that was our plan. Me and a number of other dissatisfied citizens gathered around to pop that bubble and give the Lord a taste of how we felt about him. With the help of a slave trader, I infiltrated the Lord's Manor. I'd known slaves weren't treated well, but seeing it for myself, I thought most of these people would have been happier, having been born as a... I'd known slaves weren't treated well, but seeing it for myself, I thought most of these people would have been happier having been born as a dog or a cat and owned by someone who actually had a heart. It was revolting, a flagrant injustice. Broadly speaking, there are two types of people who see injustice in the world. Broadly speaking, there are two types of people who see injustice in the world. The first are those who have everything, who sit unchallenged at the top of the world, looking down on the less fortunate with pity. The second are those with nothing, who wish to overthrow the entire system keeping them down. It should come as no surprise that I fell in the second camp. Once I was inside, I went around the manor telling all the slaves about our plan. Most of them had long since lost the will to fight, but with enough assurance, there were people on the outside ready and waiting for. But with enough assurance that there were people on the outside ready and waiting to help, glimmers of hope started to return to their eyes. Finding out they weren't alone, that they weren't helpless anymore, had an incredible effect on their morale. And once the slaves were convinced, the revolt began. It ended up being much larger in scale than I had imagined, and many lost their lives in the process, but the majority of them managed to escape. Naturally, the slaves couldn't stay in the city, so I directed them to people waiting outside who would take them to another city or a neighboring country. I had neither the money nor the power to guarantee them a good life on the outside, but that hardly mattered to them. Everyone was sure that wherever they ended up would be better than staying, and I prayed that would be the case. It was during the revolt that I saved Morgana. I would have sent her off somewhere else like all the other slaves, but she was in so dire a condition when I found her that she could hardly even move on her own. She had been sapped of all her willpower. So I brought her to the brothel where a friend of mine worked, and I asked her to take Morgana in. My companions and I reveled in the revolt's success. It wasn't enough of an accomplishment to have any real political implications, but we still felt like heroes. Drunk on victory, we started talking about going bigger, starting a full-on revolution. Once the elation passed, though, we realized there wasn't much more we could do. We were only peasants. Not only did we not know the first thing about ruling, but other counts would never acknowledge our authority anyway. We'd pretend to be in control until the next in line showed up, and that would be the end of that. So we just ended up sitting on our thumbs, no way to do anything about our discontent. Skip forward to about a month before Morgana's birthday, One day, a middle-aged woman appeared before me. No. One day, blah, 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 blah. One day, a middle-aged woman approached me. I had never met... I read appeared before me because there's a before directly above. I had never met her before, but she had wavy hair that reminded me a great deal of my own. Looking me straight in the eye, the woman said, "I was once a maidservant for the Barnier estate. They've done their best to keep it a secret, but I had a child with the previous lord, and that child is you." The revelation came completely out of the blue. According to her, I had royal blood, and if we could convince the lord of that, I would become royalty. Furthermore, she, as my alleged mother, could return to her old life at the manor. The woman urged me to take action, to meet the lord, reveal my lineage, and reclaim my rightful place at the Barnier house. I would no longer be a poor peasant living in the slums. I would have a comfortable life. I obviously wasn't going to agree on the spot. Her story was so blatantly dubious I needed some time to think on it. If she was telling the truth, though, it could transform our revolution from a dream into a reality. We wouldn't be restricted to inciting inconsequential uprisings. I could seize power legitimately and make some actual change. So I asked the woman to give me some time to consider. God, Jacopo is so interesting as a character, man. He embodies his soul, his spirit embodies all the extremes of all the extremes you can think of. You know, on one end he has the heart of a revolutionary, on the other he's an oppressor, an enforcer of the status quo. And would do anything to prevent a revolution. Just, shows it's two sides of the same coin. You're not too far off from being the opposite if you're the other one. I don't know, does that make sense? I'm tired, sorry. Have you decided what you're going to give her? That was the very first thing I heard when I stepped through the back door of the brothel. Maria, a short blonde-haired prostitute and good friend of mine, flashed me a devilish smirk. I brought a necklace, as per your suggestion. Girls appreciate that sort of thing, don't they? Oh, I guess this isn't him just quoting. Most do. Okay. I bought a necklace, as per your suggestion. Girls appreciate that sort of thing, don't they? Most do. Me, I've got a taste for knives and other such pointy things. I doubt she has much interest in those, though. Sometimes I wonder if you're actually a girl. She is the girl, buddy. She's the ultimate fucking girl. You shut your mouth, you vanilla, wet fart of... I need water. Anyone could see that Maria and I were close, but our relationship was strictly platonic. Of course, given her line of work, it was unavoidable that people thought otherwise. Really? I thought the stereotype is that prostitutes don't have significant others. I don't know. And honestly, it irritated me every time someone suggested we were anything more than friends. People have this annoying, short-sighted tendency to assume that just because a guy and a girl are friendly, they must be intimate. It didn't matter that she was a girl. I only thought of her as a friend, and as best as I could tell, that's all she thought of me as well. Anyone could see that Maria and I were close, but our relationship was strictly platonic. Of course, given her line of work, it was unavoidable that people thought otherwise. And honestly, it irritated me every time someone suggested we were anything more than friends. People have this annoying, short-sighted tendency to assume that just because a guy and a girl are friendly, they must be intimate. It didn't matter that she was a girl. I only thought of her as a friend. As best as I could tell, that's all she thought of me as well. Maria and I first met when we were children. Even at that age, she was already a prostitute, myself a petty thief. We were both incredibly lucky to have survived to adulthood with only ourselves to watch each other's backs. It's possible the only reason either of us maintained the willpower to survive this long was because we had each other. Sorry. Ugh. My eyes are a little bit dry today and I'm tired, so I'll just keep making excuses whenever I flub a line. How about that? It's possible the only reason either of us maintained the willpower to survive this long was because we had each other to bitch about life. We had each other to bitch about life to when things got bad. Jesus. It was because we had each other to bitch about life to when things got bad. Yeah, that maybe needed to change that. Proofread that a bit. So, is today the day? Nope. So, is today the day? Are you finally gonna tell her how you feel? I stuttered. So, is today the day? Are you finally gonna tell her how you feel? Excuse me? Tell her how I what? Don't be coy. You know exactly what. It's about time you manned up and told her. I think you've got a better chance than you think. Do I need to remind you how old she is? 12, as of today. Practically an adult. I was near. Oh man. That is great. 12, as of today. Practically an adult. I was knee-deep in dick at that age. You're comparing her to you? The longer you hold off saying something, the more difficult it becomes. Break a leg. Party's gonna be in the back, so there won't be any customers around to interfere. All right. I chewed over what Maria had said as I watched her disappear down a brothel corridor. She wasn't wrong. She wasn't overanalyzing. I did indeed have special feelings for Morgana. Women seem to have this strange, somewhat terrifying ability to read people's minds. And Maria was a prime example of that. I don't know, in my experience, that's not quite the case. I've always been the mind reader of my friend groups. I had never once so much as suggested to anyone I might think of. I had never once so much as suggested to anyone I might think anything of Morgana, but Maria had somehow managed to pick up on it almost immediately. Fortunately, she didn't seem particularly bothered by the fact, though if anyone else were to find out, I could only imagine the looks I would get. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, even at that time. That's pushing it a little. Just a little. I mean, Morgana was 12, and I was 22. That wasn't normal. I've never felt this way about anyone else that young either. Any other girl Morgana's age just looked like another kid to me. So why was she any different? She was covered in scars, and every other time we met, she would tell me to go to hell, and she refused to walk anywhere with me, and no matter how much ice I broke, I could never seem to get all the way through. Yet still, the world felt like it was just a little better a place when I was with her. Alright, I think an update or something changed my fucking settings, so we should be good now. I'm pretty sure, hopefully. Yes, yeah. Just keep going through this. Now, where were we? It's a day later. Yes, okay. It made me want to see her smile, no matter how grotesque her face. How would I even go about saying it? Assuming I actually did. Even if your face still isn't healed in 4 years, I'll take you as my lifetime partner, Morgana? God, no. It's terrible. There has to be a better way to put it. Now I was getting stressed out, and it was all thanks to Maria. This was supposed to be a day of celebration, not of fretting over stupid personal matters. Not long after I arrived at the brothel and made my way to the back room, Maria and a handful of other unoccupied girls showed up. Morgana, who was supposed to be the guest of honor, was even more reticent than usual. The prostitutes chatted amongst themselves about work in unabashedly graphic detail, trading info on which customers were good and which customers were bad, all the while Morgana looking incredibly uncomfortable. You guys think we could maybe change the subject? Like we have anything else to talk about. Making the birthday girl want to hide in a corner defeats the whole purpose, don't you think? Oh no, don't mind me. Oh no, don't mind me. I don't have anything I want to talk about, Morgana said almost in a whisper, her head downturned. At least eat something then. The cookies are barely sweetened and dry as rocks, but they're edible. Jacopo, you little bitch! You've got some stones to shit-talk my cookies to my face! Stop it, Maria! Stop throwing things at me! The other girls cackled as Maria and I bickered, hoping it might have elicited a reaction from Morgana as well. I snuck a glance over at her, but she remained expressionless. You are right about one thing, though. This is Morgana's day, so let's change the subject, Maria said with a little laugh, having hurled everything within arm's reach at me. Like I said, I don't have anything to talk about. Sure you do. You just have to look a little harder. Not saying you have to reminisce for us. It can be anything. Let's see. Here's an idea. Are there any guys you got your eyes on? I spewed my tea all over the table. There is. And then I started choking. What? Seriously? Holy shit, who is it? Tell me, who's the lucky guy? God. Oh. God. Everyone fell silent. Maria gave me a sympathetic look, and I knew exactly what she wanted to say. Sorry, kid, you ain't got nothing on God, asshole. If you're gonna dream big, dream big, right? Yeah, I get where you're coming from, pining after the all-powerful, all-knowing God. I'm with you. You bald-faced liar. The grass may be a hell of a lot greener up there, but it's a bit far, don't you think? You're better off settling for the weeds down here. Did she just imply I'm a weed? I'm paranoid. I know I recorded audio, but I want to check. Very good. Maria looked over and gave a wide grin at the sight of me grinding my teeth, then continued. Say, the young man over... Wait! Stop right there! Don't say another word! Whoopsie, me and my big mouth. I almost did your job for you. Damn it, Maria! This was not good. Like hell I was going to let her corner me into saying it here. I stole a glance at Morgana, but her gaze was locked on her knees. I couldn't see what, if any, kind of reaction she was having.
Morgana, what she was trying to say is that I have to go.
What?
I have to go to the bathroom.
Sure. Morgana got up from her chair and left the room in silence. I imagine I was making a rather flaccid expression because as soon as Morgana was gone, Maria began cackling like a madwoman. My reply was the nearest object, courtesy of my throwing arm. That's a great sentence. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's something I would write. You know, because I'm such a great writer. Loser. How hard is it to just... Loser. How hard is it to just say it? It would have been easier if you hadn't cornered me like that. You think I believe you would have done it without a little nudge? I would have. Eventually. Eventually ain't gonna cut it. Now's the right time. And don't worry, me and the girls won't make fun of you for getting your rocks off to little girls. Jesus Christ. I will, maybe. Just a little. That's not the reason I like her. Besides, I would wait at least 4 years before... Okay, a little bit more respectable. Doesn't mean you can't tell her now. Respectable for this time period, please keep in mind. I think it'd do her wonders, really. She's, well, you know. So I think knowing someone cares about her will lighten the load a bit. Maria wouldn't stutter. That was me imposing myself into the character. She's, well, you know. So I think knowing someone cares about her will lighten the load a bit. When she comes back, give her the necklace and tell her how you feel. And if she turns you down, well, we can all have a good laugh about it. Maria and a few other girls chuckled. As uncomfortable as she was making me feel, she had a point. Regardless of whether Morgana reciprocated my feelings or not, there was a good chance that just putting them out there would help in breaking down the walls she had built in her heart. And maybe one day, I would actually be able to see her smile. I'll do it. I'll tell her. It didn't matter if I came out looking like a loser. It didn't matter if Morgana wasn't interested in me that way. What mattered was that she knew someone accepted her, regardless of her appearance or the things she had been through. And if by some chance there really was royal blood flowing through my veins, then I could make good on my promise to show her the world. I could put an end to her life of poverty and abuse, replace it with one of comfort and wealth. I could buy her even better medicine, something that could actually heal her face. If I were truly royalty, I could do so much for her. Makes it sound like I want to be some kind of fairy tale hero or something. But honestly, I wouldn't have minded that. If I was going to make her happy, to wipe away all her past misfortune, why couldn't I make it a little dramatic? It wasn't usually my style, but in this case, I wouldn't have objected to a storybook ending. This, though. No. This wasn't the kind of story I was hoping for. The heavy curtains separating the guest rooms had been torn to shreds, and they were splattered with blood. A man, apparently caught without enough time to defend himself, lay splayed out naked on a bed, his empty eyes fixed on the ceiling. The whole area reeked of blood. Sorry. Adjusting my seat. All I could do was stare stupefied at the carnage. What the hell? Why? How could this happen? My dumbfounded muttering went unanswered, though. The few who were still alive could no better make sense of the incomprehensible massacre than me. The sudden, arbitrary upheaval of our world. The inexplicable, inescapable reality. Shortly after Morgana stepped out, I heard a woman scream from the front of the brothel. Next, a man shouting. At first, I assumed it was one of the customers losing his temper over something, but the tone of the scream seemed somehow off, or something like that. It wasn't long before the noise had escalated to alarming levels, so I dashed toward the source of the shouting. A good dozen men, bandits, or maybe thieves, they seemed more organized, had raided the brothel. They slaughtered all the customers, stripping them of any valuables, and they tied up the girls, killing any who resisted. The first thought that rose to my panicked mind was that I needed to find Morgana. I needed to get her out of here, no matter what. I couldn't let her birthday turn into a tragedy. She had already been through enough, and I had to make sure she didn't suffer any further. I had to make her life into something good. I searched and I searched, but there was no sign of Morgana anywhere, until suddenly something seemed to crash into me from behind, causing me to stagger. It took a few seconds for the pain to set in, which is when I looked down to see the tip of a blade sticking out of my gut. Blood streamed along the metal surface, and there were little bits of flesh caught on the edges. I turned around just in time to see the man holding it kick me away, and before I had time to process what was happening, I hit the floor and lost consciousness. If I were a hero, I could have surely eradicated all the violent intruders in the blink of an eye, saving everyone. Protected that which I wanted to protect. Not had to lose anything. But I was a mere boy. A weak boy, helpless against a few robbers. A useless boy, unable to protect anyone. When I woke up, Maria was kneeling over me, sobbing, no sign of the tough, foul-mouthed girl I knew. Aside from her, there were 2 other girls, also crying, leaving only 4 survivors. Apparently, I wasn't dead. Looking down, I saw my bare stomach wrapped in blood-soaked bandages. The good old One Piece style, where you get impaled and just make you into a mummy and you're okay. The brothel lay in ruins, a bloody pile of torn bedding, clothes, and bodies. I made my way back to the front, and all I could do was stare stupefied at the carnage. Didn't you have that exact line earlier? You definitely said stupefied. I think it's a bit too early to reuse stupefied. I'll stop. What the hell? Why? How could this happen? My dumbfounded muttering went unanswered, though. Okay, if you're reusing it verbatim, then, again, for effect, that's fine. Maria stood beside me, quietly rubbing her trembling arms. Where's Morgana? Where's Morgana? I couldn't find her. Why not? I'm sorry. I looked everywhere. I'm not sure who is who. No, yeah, the I'm so sorry would be directed toward Jacopo. Where's Morgana? I couldn't find her. Why not? I'm sorry. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find her. I'm so sorry. I wanted to say I wasn't blaming her, but I couldn't find the words. If I'd had power, I could have prevented this from happening. What kind of power would I have needed, though? The physical strength to overpower the thieves? No. I needed to think bigger. If I weren't a peasant, but someone of real influence and import, no one would dare stand up to me. No petty thieves would ever even consider a raid on me. And I would have the power to punish anyone who tried. But regardless, this would have never happened at all. I was supposed to give Morgana a good life, to show her the world, to make her smile. If only I had power. Absolute, unflinching power. If I had climbed to the top of the ladder when the chance was offered to me, this all could have been avoided. If only I had asserted my place as royalty a month earlier, as the woman who claimed to be my mother had urged me to. I wanted power. The power to keep everything I cared about safe. The power to change this damned world. The power to stop those filthy thieves. The power to keep her by my side. I wanted power. I heard about the attack on the brothel and that you were hurt. I'm so glad to see you're well. Is this the woman? No. I heard about the attack on the brothel and that you were hurt. I'm so glad to see you're well. About a week after the raid, I went to see the woman who professed herself my mother. As you would expect of someone who had served at the Lord's... As you would expect of someone who had served at the old Lord's manor, she was very elegant and graceful. The shack where she stayed, though, was a shabby, drab place with bare wattle and daub walls. I don't know the word daub. Or I don't even know how to pronounce that properly. You were concerned about my safety. Of course. Show me a mother who is not always concerned about her child's safety. Says the woman I'd never seen until a month ago. Physical distance has no bearing on a mother's love, she said with a soft smile. Age had clearly begun taking its toll on her, but I could see hints of her former beauty. If you had gone to speak with the Lord and revealed your lineage when I first came to see you, you would never have been in that kind of danger. There is still time. Go to the Lord's manor. Show him... I'm not really your son, am I? The woman fell silent for a moment, observing me. I could see the resemblance between us, yes, and I had no memories of my mother. It would be nice if she were to show back up someday. But it just wasn't likely. This whole thing felt extremely contrived. Discussions will progress much smoother if we both know what the other wants out of this arrangement. Is that a bit too elegant for Jacopo? Oh, no. Start by telling me who you really are. Were you actually a maidservant for the previous lord? She gave a nod, then walked over to a grimy shelf and retrieved a ring that looked very much out of place. It was made of gold, engraved with an elaborate insignia.
Look at this. It's the Barnier family crest. The previous lord gave me this ring as a gift, and I've kept it ever since, even after our relationship was discovered and I was chased out. I didn't sell it because I knew I was with child. They will have no choice but to acknowledge you as legitimate heir if you show them this ring, as a legitimate heir if you show them this ring. Why did you wait so long to come find me then? I was afraid they might kill you if I brought you in as a baby.
Why were we separated?
Misfortune. One day bandits came and kidnapped you. Presumably, they were hired by the Barnier estate because they didn't want your existence coming to light. I consider it a miracle you're still alive.
I can only imagine the stern look on my face as I listened to the woman speak. Part of me did indeed want to take everything she said as true. Wanted to believe I was someone important, but I couldn't convince myself I had anything other than a commoner's blood running through my veins. It would appear you've done your research. I don't have any other family, to the best of my knowledge, which does indeed make me a good candidate for you to step in and claim your stake on. If I were to guess, your child with the Lord has either passed away or never existed at all. It's probably true that you worked at the Barnier's manor, and it's probably true that you had relations with the former Lord. You were chased out, and now you live in poverty. You want to go back to your former, more comfortable life, and while you're at it, take vengeance on the current Lord. But being a woman, you have no means to accomplish that yourself. So you came up with the idea of using a fake son. If your child were still alive, he would be right about my age, wouldn't he? And we look similar enough for you to convincingly claim we're related. But the biggest reason you chose me is because I've made something of a name for myself. Because I was one of the people involved in inciting the revolt 3 years ago. The perfect choice to spearhead a revolution. How dramatic. The man who set the Lord's slaves free was secretly his family. The people would eat it right up. So how far off am I? For some time, the woman sat in silence. Eventually she broke it, not by yelling in anger or desperately trying to refute me, but with a smile. I knew very well what lurked beneath that smile, too. Scorn.
You're sharp for a filthy peasant. It would seem I chose wisely.
I was right. She was a manipulative... She was a manipulative... She was a manipulative, conniving shyster. But that I could work with. That fit so much better. I wasn't royalty. I wasn't a hero. I was a filthy peasant. I'm in. The first thing I did after agreeing to work with the woman was not to approach the Lord, but to reveal my false lineage to my accomplices. They all thought I was joking, until I showed them the ring. Then, their dreams of revolution started seeming far more realistic. Maria was the one exception. Not only did she not believe me, She tried to stop me from going through with the scheme.
Haven't you had enough danger for one life? Come on, forget about all this revolution stuff. We can build up a new brothel and just stay low for the rest of our days. Does that really sound so bad? You're the only friend I've got left, Jacopo, she said, somewhat desperately. I sympathized with her concerns, but I didn't want to let this chance to gain some real power slip away. I was done having things taken from me, away from me. Hear me, my fellow citizens, who live in suffering at the hands of your supposed lord. Within me flows the blood of the previous lord. I am the rightful heir. Behold, the Barnier's golden ring, proof that I am of noble birth. Victims of this terrible tyrant, the time has come to start anew. And I shall be the one to lead you down that path. The poor, the hungry, the deprived, all of you, stand with me! My call to arms stoked the flames in the people's hearts. When the assault on the Lord's manor began, they were When the assault on the Lord's manor began, they were an inferno of righteous justice. No one was thinking straight. I was about the only one with something resembling a clear head amidst the chaos. If I were really a hero, then I would have rejoiced in that glorious day, that momentous turning point in the city's history. I would have been honored to have led the charge. But this was all about one woman's avarice and desire for revenge. This was all about one man's lamentation of his own weakness. I wasn't motivated by any desire to help these people. The Lord, backed into a corner, begged for his life. I decapitated him, then held his severed head up for the people. Their cheers and shouts filled the air. As I watched them rejoice, I wondered, was this the future that awaited me? Would the people come after me next? Was my head going to be in one of their hands one day? The king and the other counts acknowledged my royalty, though it was less because I had the Barnier's ring, and more because they thought that was the best way to prevent things from getting any messier. So with their approval, I formally became the lord of their land, the lord of the land. Blah, 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 blah. I formally became the lord of the land. I also assumed the former lord's name, because despite his reputation with his people, it was a name people knew, and one that held far more clout than my own. And just like that, I think that's probably the first time the word clout has been used in this game. My long-time dream of power had come true. That said, simply becoming the Lord didn't mean everything had fallen neatly into place. Many of the local noble families accused me of acquiring my rank illegitimately. They waited, fangs bared, for me to slip up. They even tried to set me up on more than one occasion. I couldn't trust anyone. On top of that, if I took too long making the improvements I had promised the people, they would start saying I was just as much of a tyrant as the previous lord. There was only so much I could do at once, though, especially with my hands so full fending off the vulturous nobles. Vulturous, huh? That's a real word, I guess. Exhaustion soon began to set in. This wasn't the world I was looking for.
The one I wanted to show Morgana.